just need to turn it on.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this late evening session. In order to keep it interesting, we have to keep up the pace. And I have also taken liberty of
you could have this
presentation
more freedom
for the presenters. This is like this,
just goes from
this, and you don't better reach the last slide, which is this. So please don't let this computer do nasty things. Let me first welcome Mirosław Migacz. I have seen his presentation yesterday, and it was brilliant, and I'm really glad that I can welcome you here today. So, Mirosław.
Thank you. I'm a Chief JS Specialist in the Central Statistical Office of Poland, and I'm the member of the team that is responsible for the Geostatistics portal project. We have been working on this project for the last 3 years. The presentation is going to focus first on the introduction of the project, a short introduction, and then I'm going to tell about what have we planned for future developments for the next few years. Last year in Florence, I had the pleasure to present a sneak preview of the Geostatistics portal. Then this presentation was called a platform for census data visualization. The portal launched actually a few days after the conference in July, and I think that right now this project is much more than just a platform for census data. So today I'm going to tell you how we wanted to make it the multi-tool for statistics on maps. But first, what's it for? Why have we created the Geostatistics portal? First of all, we have a lot of statistical data that needs to be visualized on maps. Second, we produce spatial data that need to be published in a geoportal. And third, we are obliged by Inspire to publish network services. The main statistical data sources that are published in the portal are census results, which are results of the agricultural census 2010 and population and housing census 2011. And from other sources, we mainly have the local data bank. This is a huge database with lots of statistical data. Some of them dates back to 1978 even, but for now we published in the portal data since 2009 up to now. All data that is in the portal's database is available on aggregation levels from the country via NUTS regions down to Law2 level. And we have two main groups of cartographic presentation methods available, and these are choropleth maps and diagram maps. We produce spatial data within official statistics. For census purposes, we created the spatial address databases that contain our statistical units that are below Law2 level, and these are statistical regions and census enumeration areas. And also we created and maintain a database of address points for dwelling locations. And that's how the street network layer was created. It was created by our operators as a sort of a byproduct of maintaining the statistical address point to make our operators' job easier to locate specific address points. And the street network created by us is also published in the portal. For other spatial data that is published in our project, these are of course the Inspire services for the statistical units and population distribution demography teams. As I mentioned before, we have all sorts of cartographic presentation methods that can be used to create thematic maps from data that is loaded into the portal. And these are choropleth maps and various kinds of diagram maps. This is an example of a choropleth map. Users can define all parameters of these choropleth maps by themselves, including classification methods, number of classes, and visual parameters like color scale or transparency. Diagram maps are also customizable by users, and there are lots of kinds of them. There are simple circle proportionally scaled diagram maps. There are bars that are scaled. A bit more complicated presentations like structural diagram maps can be created, and these structural diagram maps can be scaled as well. Structures of phenomena can be also presented on bar charts. that can also be scaled. And if a user for some reason wants to create a presentation with 2, 3, or 4 completely different phenomena, we have the complex diagram map for that, and it can be presented in such a way. These are our statistical units, statistical regions, and census enumeration areas as they are published in the portal. And as I mentioned before, the Central Statistical Office of Poland is responsible for 2 Annex 3 data themes, and these are statistical units and population distribution. And about the state of the Inspire services in the Geostatistics portal at the moment, we have a running discovery service. We have view services that are running for both the teams SU and PD. We have download services running for both teams as well. When it comes to statistical units, we have an Atom feed that serves GMLs already compliant with the data specifications. When it comes to population distribution, at the moment we published also as an Atom feed population data in an SV shapefile, but by the end of this year we plan for the population distribution data to be compliant with the data specifications as well and be published in GML. And of course, for all the data sets and services, the metadata is published in our metadata catalog. So that was the introduction. On to future developments. Here is a small list of what we have planned for the future, and I will go through each of these plans in detail in just a moment. First of all, we would like to implement advanced spatial analysis from microdata. I mentioned before that we created a spatial address point database, so we had dwelling locations for the whole of Poland at the time of the census. That's why all data that was collected in the census was referenced to an address point. So all statistical data collected in the censuses has a pair of coordinates connected to it. And that's why we are able to perform spatial analysis in any desired area. For example, a polygon that is drawn on the map like it's shown on the right here. And we want to create a tool that will allow our statisticians to perform such an analysis and publish the results. As I said, we have enormous amounts of statistical data that is referenced at a very detailed level. We cannot distribute this data as is because we are bound by statistical confidentiality issues. Therefore, we think it's necessary to create a tool that will allow our statisticians to perform the advanced spatial analysis and create products that will meet statistical confidentiality issues. And we are the only authority that is capable of creating such products. First of all, we have a pool of experts that have expertise in statistical analysis in their respective statistical domains, and no other institution can process such data because of the confidentiality issues. As Central Statistical Office of Poland, we take part in various EU projects regarding statistical data on maps. These are various stages of the Geostat project and the project merging statistical data and geospatial information. The products of these projects are mainly population grid maps, and we want the population grid maps to make their way to our portal as well. I mentioned before that the local data bank is a huge database with lots of historical statistical data. Most of this data is available for years 2003-2013. All of this data is right now available to download on tables. We want all of this database to be available in the portal so users can create thematic maps from the full scope of this extensive database. We also heard that there is a demand for population maps on a level lower than Law 2. As part of the mentioned before projects, we created population maps for cadastral units, statistical regions, and census enumeration areas, and they also are to be published in the portal. We plan new cartographic presentation methods, for example, cartograms in which the size and shape of each territorial division unit depends on the value of the phenomena that is presented. We want to make it a bit more convenient for users to analyze time series. We have, since implementing the local data bank, we have data since 2009 up to now, so we want to make it convenient for users to not to have to create a separate thematic map for each year, but to be available to navigate through these years, for example, by a slider that is on the map shown below, which is an example of a geoportal in Slovenia. Since we want to make the Geostatistics portal the place that every user of statistic comes to if he wants to get statistical data, we also want to make it a place where someone can come with his data and visualize them using our tools. So, for example, if someone has statistical data in a table, we can offer him the possibility to upload the table to our system and create any choropleth or diagram map with any kind of parameters that he desires and export it and use it as he wishes. The creation of population grid maps led us to thinking that they are actually the ground for new Inspire services. So by October 2015, we plan to publish statistical grids as SU, statistical units, and population data on grids as part of the team population distribution. And last but not least, I think that such a powerful tool needs to have its mobile representation, so we are planning to create a mobile application for the three most popular operating systems. And a few smaller other plans. First of all, we'd like to make a more user-friendly interface for thematic maps. We'd like users to be able to change the parameters of the current presentation on the fly, not to have to recreate the whole presentation to change, for example, the classification. We want to upgrade the website's content management system, mainly to meet the web content accessibility guidelines. We'd like to upgrade the monitoring system of our project. We'd like hit counters for specific web pages, modules, and services, and we feel the need to monitor each Inspire service separately. And some tools for behind the scenes for us administrators to have an easier way with managing users and managing language versions of the portal. To summarize, the Geostatistics portal now is a project that gives access to a huge amount of data, census results, and the extensive local data bank. We have a variety of cartographic presentation methods that can be used by users to create their own thematic maps. We meet Inspire requirements, publishing Inspire compliant services, and as you've heard, we have quite ambitious plans for the future. So that will be all. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. You can contact me via Twitter, LinkedIn, email, and this presentation is already on SlideShare on my profile listed here. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, it was very timely. Thank you for that. Any questions, burning questions, questions that have to be answered right away?
Thanks. You talked about doing the mobile application development. Have you got any idea of how much demand there is for accessing this via mobiles?
We haven't surveyed it, but we think that that giving the users possibility to access statistical data on smartphones is a good idea. We heard that the mobile application for our national geoportal is used quite extensively, so we think that this is just another step that we need to take.
Any other question?
What tool did you use for the cartographic representation in your portal?
It was developed by an external company. The whole portal is based on our GIS server, but the tools for the corporate maps and diagram maps were created by an external company. Based on HTML5.
Mirosław, one question regarding the time series. You showed this map. How you do you recalculate the time series values if the areas have changed?
I expected this question after yesterday's session. No, we don't. We actually provide, as I think I mentioned in the slide, we provide different territorial divisions for each year and present the situation as is for the respective territorial division.
Okay, any other question? If not, thank you, Mirosław. It was a very nice presentation. Now, please, Jan, if you can take the floor and show us what you do.
So I'll just use the microphone there.
You might need to go a bit closer to it.
Okay, so this presentation really is about the development work that we did based around Inspire, but really starting to kind of look beyond that in terms of what we want to deliver as an ongoing commitment that perhaps goes beyond Inspire, but also it's about going beyond Inspire because it's about some of the existing initiatives and some of the other things that we were able to do by using Inspire to sort of help implement them. So with most of the presentations, I try and start off with a quote, and I put this one up yesterday as well in my presentation, which comes from the UK location strategy, and it's that everything happens somewhere. Now, when we think about this in the context of statistics, and we think of statistics as measures of things, because everything happens somewhere, every statistic has a location, perhaps unlike Mirosław's presentation, perhaps unlike some of the other national statistical institutes, there's perhaps a bit more of a divide in the UK between the statisticians and the statistical geographers, and so we spend a lot of our time trying to convince statisticians that geography is important, and they spend a lot of time trying to ignore us. And so what we try and do is, if we can, is get them thinking in this way, and hopefully we're starting to do that now, and we're able to use Inspire to do that. So when I was putting this presentation together, I was trying to sort of find an image really that I thought captured how we felt about statistical geographies over the past 10 years between the censuses and really up until we could start thinking about implementing Inspire. And the best thing I could find was this. And it really, you know, at certain points it has felt very much like that, head in hands. We had something, a brilliant system actually, called the Geographic Referencing Infrastructure, and it was built for us, and it won loads of awards, but the problem we had with it was that it was internal facing, so other ONS people could access the data, but external people couldn't, so it wouldn't meet Inspire. And because of that, we had to put a lot of our geography data onto CDs and DVDs, and we had to put them in the post, which again didn't really fit with where a 21st century organisation should be. And we had lots of different products split across different bits of software, and then as a result put on different platforms for dissemination. So the whole approach was really very fragmented. So when we started setting out to think about how we were going to implement Inspire, we were really thinking about it in the context of all of these things and saying, well, actually, there's more than just Inspire, there's more than just the legal requirement. There are actually a whole host of things that we want to do, internal requirements that we need to meet. So what did we want to do? Well, we wanted to deliver our data online, and I think that at the very core is really, if you had to boil it down to one thing, what we wanted to do. We wanted to let our customers access our data in a much easier way. We didn't want to have to put things in the post where they had to fill in application forms and all of this stuff. We wanted to get the data out there. We wanted to migrate to web services. We wanted to be Inspire compliant. We wanted to have a hosted solution. So we have a lot of problems internally within ONS, and you can see obviously there's a little girl up there who looks absolutely terrified, and you might think it's because of the budgie, but it's actually not. It's to do with, she's actually terrified because we haven't been through the IT gateways that we have within our organisation. And there's very much an IT culture, a procurement culture, a finance culture that are there to try and stop us from doing what it is that we're trying to do. In this case, implement Inspire, get our data out online. So by having a hosted solution, we were really able to try and say, okay, a lot of these internal cultural problems we have, if we take the solution outside of the organisation, then we can bypass a lot of those problems. We wanted to have machine-readable data, and we've heard a lot about that this morning. We heard talk about Barack Obama's executive order saying he wants machine-readable data by default. And obviously that there are a number of linked data presentations, so machine-readable data over the next couple of days as well. And the other kind of key point that goes alongside the top one was we wanted to have a single authoritative data source. We wanted to have one place where everybody could come and get our data from, so it wasn't split across different platforms. And really going back to what Inspire is about, it's about having one place where you can go and find what you need, even if it's not necessarily stored in one place. If there's one place you can go and look for it, then you can get to what you want. So the first thing we did was we went along to our senior management and we said to them, we have this requirement, this legal requirement for Inspire. You need to pay for us to do some development. And they said, so what? That was the actual response was, well, what happens if we don't implement Inspire? And we said, well, there's potential repercussions, there's financial repercussions. And they said, well, we're not convinced anything's going to happen. You need to convince us that we need to do something here. And it was a bit of a shock, actually, because we were absolutely convinced Inspire on its own would be enough. But what we actually ended up with was a whole host of things that came together to form the core of the business case. So the first thing we have was the push towards open data. And within the UK, we've had a really big push towards open data. And although open data in itself has been around for a long time, and we as statisticians, we build our organisations on open data. Our business is to get data out there where people can access it for free. That's what we do. But suddenly there was a shift in the mentality of organisations who started to be aware of this thing, open data, and that they should be doing open data. And we were able to say, well, okay, as well as the statistics, you need to think about making the geographies available as open data as well. Then we had Inspire. So as I say, the legal mandate of Inspire was very good in helping to form the business case. And we also had the 2011 census. So we had our own internal requirements for publishing census data, census statistics. And at the same time, we were able to go to them and say, well, actually, you need to think about more than just the statistics. You need to think about the geographic data as well. So we had this combination of national initiatives, international initiatives, legal mandates, and internal requirements. And we were able to package all of those up together and say, okay, here's a really solid business case for doing some development here and actually looking at making our data available. So this was sort of roughly what we have tried to implement. So over on the right hand side, we within our organisation, we still have people sat at desks working on machines using traditional GIS tools to create products, and they put those products into internal servers. But from that point on, we wanted them to either do one of two things. Either they could go out this way via FTP into a hosted database, over the top of which we have APIs so that we could have that machine-to-machine interaction, or there'd be a product explorer so people could get in and access the products that they needed. Or we could convert the data using some bit of software to link data, so to the machine-readable stuff, put it into a triple store, so again a large database, and again we have an API over the top, and we have an explorer for the human interaction. So between these two things, we've got a linked data sort of site, and we have a sort of Inspire product site, and then clients can come into either and access the data from there. So the first case study that I want to show you is around that product stuff. So it's what we call the Open Geography portal. And if you ever want to go and have a look at any of these things, if you Google Open Geography, you should be able to get, I think it's normally the top search term on there. But this is what you get when you go onto the first page, and we designed it to have as many ways really of accessing the data. So in the context of Inspire, this is the discovery bit. So you have search terms you can type in there, we have links, we have tabs for search, for browse, for download products. Lots of different ways of getting the data. And because we went down the hosted solution route, the other thing that we were able to do with this was say, okay, let's take an off-the-shelf solution for this. And it's not the best looking thing in the world, but actually, because we took an off-the-shelf solution, we just got it out there quickly, and we turned this thing around within about 3 months, 3-4 months to make it available. And we said, well, once it's out there, we can refine it, we can start to look at customer requirements, but actually, let's just get the thing out there and get people using it, and that'll be the best way to try and understand what those requirements are. Then once you've found what you need, you can see down here we've got the inspired data themes. These came as part of the standard off-the-shelf package, but we've started to add our own customer requirements in around content type. And then once you've found what you're looking for, you can open, you can preview, you can add to map, you can look at the details, or you can go to the metadata. So this is really a kind of a fairly standard Inspire tool, but over time we've started to develop it. So here's the sort of the map service that sits behind it, and you can visualize some of our statistical units with the codes attached to them. But some of the things that we've started to add in now are we've added in the ability to cut the data however you want it. So previously you just had to take everything, the whole of England and Wales for the product. Now we've actually said, well, you may not want the whole of England and Wales if you're just an administrative area. You may just want your area, so you can now cut it to that. And we've also added in different export formats in there as well. So we're starting, once we've got the data out there, then we start to understand the user requirements that go beyond Inspire.
Yeah.
The second case study I wanted to just show you was the Linked Data Explorer. So this is the linked data with a a map front over the top. And the first thing we did was to load in the local authority boundaries, but actually you can type in the name. Now, unlike the Open Geography portal where you type something in, you'll find a particular product. Now you're actually getting into the data itself, so you can type in the name of a geography or the code of a geography, and it'll take you to it using URIs, those unique identifiers. But if you click on a boundary, it'll zoom it in, and then underneath that boundary you have all the information. Now previously, this information was split across a number of different products, one for the boundaries, one for the lookup information, and one for the code history information. What we've done is bring that all back together into one resource. Because we have the hierarchy information and the boundary information, you're actually able to go up here, select from here to look at a particular type. So you can say, for this area, show me all the lower layer super areas, and there they are. So just kind of finishing off then, really. We knew that we needed to implement Inspire, but we didn't want to just implement Inspire. We had an opportunity here to use Inspire to leverage more requirements, really, and to go beyond that. So we knew that we wanted to move to machine-readable data, and we see that really as being one of the key areas of development over the next few years. We wanted to move to the implementation of APIs. We wanted to migrate from our current business processes. So we have our ways of doing things at the minute, and we have our products, but over time we want to get rid of those, and we want to move to just machine-readable data, just web services. And we wanted to take that agile approach of get something out there, and then we'll develop once it's available. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ian.
Any questions? We have time for 2 questions. First. Well, that's me to ask. Then about the triplets, do you use anything that can be shown and shared? Because the discovery of data is immense then.
Yes, yeah. So the project that we're working on for the linked data and for this stuff, we're trying as far as possible to use open source data behind it, open source software, and as part of, because the project's funded by Eurostat, once we finish that project, we're going to give as much of that back to Eurostat as possible and make it open so that people can then take that and implement their own versions. So, yeah.
So who's winning, linked data or GeoPortal?
It's a good question. So the portal is getting about 5,000 visits to the web pages a month. The linked data is getting about 5,000 queries on the data a month. Now for me, I think the queries are more important because that's people actually consuming the data. If you go into the web pages, they may not be taking anything. So I'm going to say linked data, but that's only because that's my project and I work on it. But
perfect. Thank you very much. Due to time constraints, please, all other questions, let's leave after the session. Now we have Susanne Schnorr-Bäcker from the German Statistics Office. With your portal, I was always looking up very much. No. So, thank you. Susanne, yeah. You have a floor.
Yes. And, sorry, how does it? Is the presentation available? Are you sure?
Yes.
Is this right? No, it's not. No. Yes, of course. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to me to be here. And yeah, I'm from Official Statistics. I'm responsible for regional statistics and statistical RS indicator systems on the whole. Yeah, and we have a lot of maps and interactive tools in line. Some of them with Inspire. We have OGC, or we use often OGC services and so on. I think that's not what I want to show you. No? Could you? I think it's better here.
Is it not powerful? Do you possibly be forced to use the computer?
Techniques.
Yes.
Do you think it works?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because this is not powerful. This is.
Sorry?
It's because that's a PDF file.
It's PDF file. It doesn't work with the.
Okay, so.
If you can use this microphone.
Yeah, I try to do so. No?
Yes.
Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Now I have to switch. Yeah, I want to tell you something about sustainable development strategies, or how our data can be used for political purposes at EU level and at international level as well. And I will want to show you something about the requirements necessary for these tasks. Yeah, the aim of Inspire, everybody knows, I think, something concerning environment and what is in our times not concerning environment. So, but as a statistician, you have to operationalize what it means, and there is some definition of Brundtland. That is the Brundtland Commission of the United Nations in the 1986, and it's about the current society and future societies. There are several sustainable development strategies which have been implemented by heads of states at the political level, and more they are accompanied by statistical monitoring systems to see the progress and to decide what is needed. First of all, I think at European level, at the level of the European Union, there is Europe 2020. It starts in 2010, and everything is in line with that strategy. Then we have OECD, it's how it's lived, progress and measurement, and at United Nations level there are the Millennium Development Goals. They are now under construction, and it's called Post-2015. And in Germany we have a so-called sustainable strategy. It has a long tradition in Germany. Now these are the components or dimensions of sustainability in our days. It's about social aspects, economic aspects, and ecological aspects. It's really everything, and it holds true for our society as well as future societies. This is a picture of the European strategy. It's a bit complex, and this is a statistical level. The aims are three ones. It's about inclusive, social, and intelligent growth, I think, or sustainable growth, how it is called. And these three priorities are put into five goals and targets. And here you can see how these goals and targets have been reached up to now. This is OECD strategy, how it's life. It's more sound, scientifically based approach by two Nobel Award winners, Stiglitz and Sen. They did that work, or they started with that work in 2005, and it's the basis for all the other ones as well. Then we have here the UN Millennium Development Goals. While the UN development goals hold true for developing countries now, the next approach, or this current approach post-2015, has to be applied by all UN member states. Now, what is needed if you want to show the developments at a regional level are territorial classification systems and typologies. Here, that's a NUTS classification for the European Union, and on the right you see how the different levels are put together for Germany. It's a hierarchical system, and there are additional 2 levels for the municipalities. That's necessary. Another one is this typology of the European Directorate of Regional Statistics and of Regional Politics. It's about cities, classification, how core cities can be distinguished from the larger urban zones. On the right side, I don't want to go further to explain that, but it's necessary and it's used for an urban audit survey, a European survey for big cities in Europe since 1999. It's a picture, I think you can read if you are interested, how these different classifications and typologies fit together. But not only these 2 classifications are relevant, I think, in terms of INSPIRE or regional statistics. Here it's a river basin districts. It comes from the Water Frame Directive, and you see that these regional units do not stop at the border. In the southern part, southwestern part of Germany, the River Rhine is a border between France as well as Switzerland and Germany. And so I think some coordination would be helpful. Here the INSPIRE themes, and official statistics has a lot to do with several of these themes. But first and foremost, it's about population. We've heard about that, but health and the other ones as well. And here are some buzzwords of sustainable development, and I think we can provide some data on that. Now we have administrative units on the left. It's shown. It is traditional ways. These are so-called corporate maps. On the other side, we have grid-based data. It's shown. It's the same variable. It's average farm size. We have an atlas, an interactive atlas at grids. on the left with several variables and layers and so on. And you see that the data are much more, the information gained from a grid-based atlas is much more detailed than from traditional coordinate maps. Another example here on the left, it's according to waterfront directives, this river basin districts, which are used in this agricultural atlas as one layer. There are other layers as well possible, such as administrative borders, and you can choose as a user what you want to see. Now here, another example where we have bar charts. It's about cities, German cities, bigger ones or the biggest ones and the smallest ones, the smallest independent ones. And it shows something at risk of poverty, a very important variable or issue of all these sustainable strategies, and much more information is gained if we will provide maps, because you need information about the regional surroundings, I think. Instead, I think it's a very good basis. We have a lot of building blocks and theoretical aspects have been solved, but what could be for the future is that it's not possible to see cross-cutting issues as it would be helpful, because statisticians often do not release one variable because they use a whole set of variables, so that analysis is much more easy. You need demographic information, you need social demographic information, so up to now it's very difficult. Then the different dimensions of the quality is absolutely crucial for us. We spend a lot of money for quality aspects. It's not only about reliability and coverage, it's also about timeliness and so on. And perhaps there might be other sources which could be used in the future. And I think analysis should be flexible so that the user gets the idea in which direction the developments might go, or what should be worth further investigation. So now I think everything is available, and let's get started. Thank you so much.
Another wonderful presentation. Communication between statisticians and environmentalists, it was always troublesome, and such an outstretched hand is a fantastic endeavor. So, any questions? Well, it seems that the presentation was really, really comprehensive. Thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to pass the floor again. Amalia Velasco, she's going to show us. Yeah, I know.
Hello, I am Amalia Velasco from the Spanish Cadastral. I am going to explain one thing that I always thought for granted, that is how you can use the cadastral data, but we discovered that is not really true. There are not many people that know how to use in other countries, and I will show you how we give our data and how they use our data in Spain. We have in Spain a cadastre that has a lot of information from 42 million rural parcels, 34 million urban properties, and a lot of title holders. Our main task is to make taxation. We depend on the Minister of Finance, and we decide the values of the real estates, and this valuation is the base of the main income, the taxation for the real estate, that is the main income for the municipalities. But this data, that huge data, is also a territorial database allowing the location and the identification of cadastral parcels and the supply of graphic and literal information for users. The Spanish Cadastral service by internet, that is from 2003, give cost-free, easy, rapid, 24 hours, 7 days a week access to all the cadastral data. It was evolved from being a governmental tax collection to be a social valuable tool for many applications. We have millions of visits for many departments, 8 million of access a day, and last year we did more than 5 million certificates. At the beginning we only have the public administration, but we have an open policy and a license for non-commercial and commercial download of massive information with the digital signature. And we provide many data. Which data we have? We have, of course, the reference, the province, the municipality. We have all the title holders with the percentage of their rights, all the address of these title holders, and many other juridical data. We have the physical data, but not only the land area, the buildings area, the class of crops, the conservation status of the construction, the use, the legal one and the actual one, the construction typology, the year of construction, so many data that they are very useful. And also the value of the land, the value of the construction, the cadastral value, and the criteria for valuation. So all this data is free for everybody to use it. But not only this, we have also, because we are a taxation, we have the description of every building inside the building, because it's not enough for the taxation. So for every flat, every building, we have every flat available for everybody. So we have many data. We have authoritative data, open data for commercial and non-commercial use, and standardized data. We have many examples. For example, Google took all our data, and we have a KML with access to the cadastral service, web map service, and link to the cadastral information. So this is in many countries available. So you can access to all the data through Google, all the cadastral data. But then people, one person, for example, did this application that is the Google Zoom, that combine Google with Cadastral and with other information. And it's very easy. You can access with Google Zoom, and you can access to all the data of the Cadastral, but also you can access Cadastral combined, for example, with urban planning or with forest area, and easily you can access to all this data. When we did, I was in the thematic working group of cadastral parcel, and when we decide the users, we always thought that there were not European cadastre, so it was impossible to give examples of European cadastre. But we really are sure that the use that we do in every country, they're going to be used in the European context when the inspire is already done. So we have many examples of of European possible use of cadastral data. I am going to leave to the end the real estate market, but about the agriculture subsidies. Of course, there is a lot of legislation about this issue, and there is a lot of money that is given every year to the farmers. In Spain, we use the cadastral information. Why? This is the tool of the LPSI for Spain, the manage of the helps the subsidies for the agriculture. They use our data because it's free and because it's totally different to have the left to the right position. You can know very much where the things are. The Joint Research Center put sometimes some complaints about the use of cadastral data, but the LPSI in Spain answered that we have homogeneous data, we have data update, all the country has digital information, and also even in the cadastral is taking care of the parcel and the LPSI is taking care of the gross. We have also in our data the gross, so it's very easy for them. But not only the LPSI, but for example, this is an application that developed a cooperative institution with every grow, a thematic map with all the grows, take it from the cadastre. Also, environmental monitoring, there are many examples. I give some of them. The coast protection line. We have in our database the coast protections for two reasons. One, to show the benefit of the environmental, but also because the rights are different between these lines, so it's important to have it. Also, regional administration use our data to the habitat in the Pyrenees, because it's not the same to have all the distribution of the property or not. Also, the energy efficiency certificate, because we give all our data, the law in Spain say that it's necessary to have the cadastral data as referent of the energy efficiency certificate. These are some examples. For example, spatial planning. For those two questions, to help the local authorities to manage better the construction permits, but also we know each of the obligations and restrictions of the urbanists in our data, and also indicators of land use to supporting spatial policies or elaborating spatial analysis. For all this data, cadastral data is very useful. For example, this is a map that a urban planning organization did of our data, because they have the legal one and we have the legal one and the real one. So these are all the use, and this, they can do comparison with all this data. Also, infrastructure management. Cadastral parcel might be required for the design, construction, management of many infrastructure, roads, rivers, telephone, transport infrastructure, windmills, many others, of course. This is an example of the Ebro River, how they manage all their policy, putting together the data of the river and the cadastral data, because it's useful. Also for the public administration, for the public land management, of course, the protected areas is not the same with the data of the owners inside of it that without of them. But also for the buildings that are from the government is very useful to manage over the cadastre. Also for public safety, it's not the same float area without the parcels that a float area to knowing how many people is going to be float, and also to access who is these people. That is the use. Earthquake risk and many others. There are many others. But I also wanted to speak about socioeconomic analysis, because I see that you statistics people use the maps to put the data. But there are another way to do it, to take statistics of the data that we provide. For example, this is a tool that a hospital made using our data to know how many people, how much time takes how many people to go to the hospital. or where to put a pharmacy or where to put a commercial area, they are using our data for all these things. Also, the value of a municipality, the valuation of a municipality of a region, and also historical maps. They are using our data to see how the city is going to change. But the most important one is the real estate market. Of course, for this one, these lawyers, notaries, banks, solicitors are very interesting, but also from other countries, because you know that every day more people is having houses in another place. So, for example, this is an example how many people consult Spain from EULIS portal. You see, it's necessary that in all the portals, the cadastral data is available, and this is happening now. All the companies that offer real estate, they can access to our data, and they can give in the advertisements all the data of the cadastre, and this is easier for the user. Another interesting is one organization that took all our data and make a bank of land for use of agriculture. They can avoid the abandonment of the land, and they make a database related to cadastral information. But all these are public, but there are many of these that I explained. But there are also many private companies that use our data. We have statistics, because I told you that for download the data you need the digital signature, and we make some research very simple to know who is taking data and why is taking data. So all these results we proceed in, we have all this data, and we see that we have a lot of appraisal companies, insurance companies, many of them take our data. Also for GIS and map viewers, there are a very nice one with 3D that you can manage with 3D, and then you can go to the data and you can access with a click. You can get the information of the cadastre in any of the place, and many other for mobiles and for many things. I don't have time. Okay. So someone told before that everything happened in one place. Of course, normally the way to find this place is the addresses, but in the rural area is not possible. So I left you in the presentation one tool that we developed to the police in the rural area, how to tell them where they are and where they are the problems with the cadastral data and the cadastral reference. But all this is without implementing Inspire. But what happened if we implemented Inspire? We have all the database transformed also to Inspire, but we are working with our data in the old model, because it's the one that we use. We know now most of the people is not using Inspire data, even if we have Inspire data. Why? Still is not well known. But what is the thing? Many of this data is not going to be in the model. This is what I find a pity. Of course, it's going to be authoritative data. It's going to be open for commercial and non-commercial use, the same that the data that is not in Inspire. But what is the difference? The difference is going to be interoperable, and this is important. So thanks for your attention.
Well, I believe that we have seen one of the best examples. Well, at least I have seen one of the best examples ever of cooperation with real users, and this coming from a mapping agency, it's even more fantastic. Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions? Yes.
what was the motivation to be so open?
There are several motivations. First of all, because we are taxation. So we think that the data is not ours, it's for everybody, first thing. And the second thing is that we charge taxation over these data. But also because the quality. We know that the data that is more used has more quality, because more people tell you how is.
Yeah, another question? If not, thank you very much. And now I would like to ask Simona Ipate-Staiculescu to give us another presentation of this afternoon.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Simona Ipate-Staiculescu. I hope you hear me well. I'm working on S3 Romania, Professional Services Department, and in the next, maybe I should go here. And in the next slides, I will try to give you a short overview on our efforts in trying to sustain an Inspire implementation in Romania, especially on Annex 3, using shared environmental system information, SAIS. So in Romania, there is currently, there already is an important Inspire implementation under the National Agency of Cadastral and Land Registration. So it is a successful implementation. If you are interested on this topic, tomorrow is going to be a presentation on this. On the other hand, regarding the environmental data, which is mostly referenced in the Annex 3 of Inspire, there is no implementation in Romania. There are some public institutions responsible for it, but this is an ongoing project. So, still, environmental data, it's crucial to have an Inspire implementation. It's crucial to be available for this. And I believe an important workflow and an ideal workflow would be that the data, the environmental data, which is made publicly available by different authorities at local, regional and national level, should be published making use of transparent standards in order to maximize interoperability and to enhance its usefulness to the public. So here it comes the EU legislation. I think it should make possible this ideal workflow. In Romania, and I'm speaking here about Inspire Directive and different other European directives. In Romania, most of the environmental-oriented projects were related until now to Habitats Directive and Birds Directive regarding the reporting of biodiversity conservation status to the European Union. So, this being a priority for Romania until the end of the last year, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of protected area managers, authorities developed a lot of different SAIs based on mostly on S3 solutions in order to make environmental data accessible to the public and to prepare the data sets in order to report this to the European Union. I could say the best thing of this initiative is that in order to further support and inspire implementation on environment, we might use the datasets already reported to the European Union and harvested in as XML files and different spatial reports using Inspire grids, Inspire European grid. So it's not only about Inspire being a backbone for SACE, but also SACE could sustain Inspire implementation, especially in terms of content available. And this is our topic. I'm going to show you a few of our shared environmental information systems developed in Romania with in a collaboration with different stakeholders, which will be the base for the next or the future Inspire implementation. So in Romania we have more than 10 SACE developed so far in the last 4 years. They are developed under the SOAP program, the SOAP, Priority Axis 4, regarding the implementation of the adequate management system for nature protection in a joint effort with different stakeholders. They are available at local, regional and national level. The purpose of this SACE were to lead us to a decentralized but yet integrated and web-enabled national environment information system. We've already implemented this system. It was recently delivered. It's in production. It is an e-reporting national system through which all the environmental data are collected and prepared in the formats that are required from the European Union. Another purpose is to ensure interoperability and expand the access to spatial data, metadata, web services and application as part of the Romanian national spatial infrastructure to provide information on natural variability and an early warning system for large-scale environment disturbances. Many of the protected area managers use these systems, these SACE, in order to improve their management activities and to take better informed decisions. They support stakeholders, like I said earlier, and they support national and regional reporting of status and trends and species of habitats integrity. And they are also fulfilling Romanian legal reporting obligation under European Union legislation. And further, they will sustain, hopefully they will sustain environment-related inspired challenges. I mean, in terms of content, we rely on this SACE developed so far. So, this is an overview of the SACE architecture. Most of the systems have the same architecture. Actually, this was the main idea, because we wanted to standardize in a way the way the authorities of the works in the protected areas management. So we used a GIS-based approach was used to implement this SACE. The methodology focused on developing a tool, a standardized and centralized tool, in order to integrate the best, I hope this is working, the best field data collection methods and equipments, the best, the most appropriate spatial analysis methods, and a central database for biodiversity, and a platform for disseminating and sharing this data with the different interested parties, and also with the national e-reporting system. So the SACE architecture is based on is a three-tier architecture. First tier, which is applicable which is broad, has broad spatially and temporal applicability. It's a very important part of the system. It allows field data collection and synchronization with the central biodiversity database. The middle tier, it's about this biodiversity database. It's an enterprise database. It contains most of the data from Annex 3 and Annex 1. It could be easily migrated through a separate ETL workflow through the Inspire database, Inspire schema, but it wasn't the purpose of this shared environment information system, because like my colleague said earlier, usually they use specific schema, geodatabase schema. I mean, the geodatabase schema was developed according to some user requirements. So, and the third tier, it's the core of the third tier. It's Esri GeoPortal server technologies, and it's allowing sharing data, allows user managing data and sharing the data with other interested parties, and the National Institute of Biology, which is the owner of the national e-reporting system. The SACE components are actually structured around the three main components of the SACE in general, which are also the pillars of the SACE. The content, which is the biodiversity data in the biodiversity database. The infrastructure, based on a web-enabled platform for disseminating distribution maps and all the dynamic web services. The infrastructure is based, like I said earlier, on Esri GeoPortal server technology. And the third component, sharing and collaboration. The SACE has the portal functionality integrated, ensuring interoperability. And the cooperation and government structure is ensured by different authorities, protected areas, managers, public agencies in Romania. Environmental data centralized in these systems comes from Annex 3 mostly, and Annex 2 of Inspire. The data was processed accordingly, so using different spatial statistical analysis and some multi-criterial analysis, and it led us to allowed it to generate different cartographic products like this maps of distribution for species and habitats. We delivered this like a solution package or template for each project implemented for each SACE in order to standardize the way they are delivering the data and they are reporting the data to a national level. So going back to the infrastructure component of the SACE, the GeoPortal was used, which is Inspire compliant in terms of metadata search and discovery service. It has some discovery and viewing functionalities, user functionalities. The user can also it has federated search integrated, so a user can search from any of the SACE through other GeoPortals. It has a map viewer integrating, allowing people to see all the distribution data which are delivered as a dynamic map service. Those are just some examples of projects. All of them are based on the same architecture, are developed for different protected areas, small protected areas or national parks, natural parks. The thing is that it is very important to have this data managed locally, but also the aim of all this SACE was to have this data reported at a national level. So in order to make this possible, we needed a much more complex system, a new reporting system, which was developed in a consortium with the National Institute of Biology and has already making significant progress to support Romania legal reporting obligation to European Union. We already had reported all the biodiversity the maps and the biodiversity conservation status to the European Union, and this is a successful project. Also, the aim of this SAIS, it's not only to sustain INSPIRE implementation, but also to move away from paper-based reporting to this nationally reporting system, which is managing the data as close as possible to its source and it make it available to public in an open and transparent way. So further focus will be to integrate all these SAIS in the nationally reporting system and to sustain with this the next INSPIRE implementation in Romania, which, like I said, it's an ongoing project. And for successful implementation at national level, for sure it is tremendously important to have this decentralized solution in order to develop a large-scale assessment. It's important to have also the mechanism for the Ministry of Environment to inform and to control protected areas and agencies from local and regional levels, to inform them about the conservation performance and their achievements. And it is also important to make this data publicly available to the public, to the users. So I don't have too much time, but you will find I'm actually on 0 minutes, but you will find in my presentation some links to some of our SAIS, Shared Environment Information Systems, but the core, it's a GeoPortal server, Esri GeoPortal server technology. So if you will go on the web, you can check some samples of this. Maybe you will find the best practices in this. So thank you, and if you have any question, maybe we are still having some time.
Okay, any questions? It's late, and we are a bit of tired to bring up intelligent questions. I believe we will find you through the day tomorrow and have enough time to think about questions to give. Okay, we have a last presentation, Leszek Litwin. Do we have Leszek here? It doesn't seem to be the case. So let's say we can slowly summarize the last afternoon session. Is there, since we are happy to have still all the presenters here, which I take the privilege of taking these release forms to sign, in the meantime, do you have any questions that can be put on these speakers, especially in terms of what I've learned today from them, how statistics and cadastral agencies are moving towards openness, they care of their users, and the INSPIRE implementation is becoming, well, not just a technical issue, but a real societal benefit. Any questions? Any comments? Yes.
I would just take this opportunity to ask a question to our last speaker. You presented an implementation then of SAIS. If I watched carefully the slides, you said that the metadata and the discovery services were INSPIRE compliant. What about the view services, the view and the download services?
You're welcome. So thank you for the question. So the view and download services are not INSPIRE are not implemented according to Inspire specification so far. It's an ongoing project. We are working on this. But since the context of the projects, all these projects was a different context. I mean, they need this data for local management, for the local administration of the protected areas. So they simply didn't need it, and all of these were projects based on European funds. So it's another project which is developed now on migrating all this data to Inspire, and also making not only Inspire schema available, but also viewing, downloading, and discovery services. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Any other question, comment, recommendation? If this is not the case, I would very warmly thank all the presenters for their very nice presentations. I will very much thank you, all of you, for staying with us up to this late afternoon. And don't forget, at 7 o'clock, this is the time for us to meet again. Have a nice evening.